like yeah, it says YouTube live chat not found. Yeah, I don't know what's happening. It could be something with YouTube themselves. So oh no, it's back. All right, we're good. All right, we're good. We're back on YouTube. So whatever was happening is no longer an issue, and we are rocking and rolling. So good news. Okay, so if anybody was on YouTube, let's see. I guess people are joining back in. Right. Cracks me up how little difficulties like this can eat up some valuable time. All right, so it looks like people are coming back on. If you are back on and you were here before, then just chime in. All right, so I guess by the time this auto saves, everybody will be back. All right, cool. Nathan is back on YouTube. Yeah, fun times indeed. It happens, you know. We might lose a few minutes here and there, but good news is when this is recorded, you can always skip it and get to the good part. All right, so I'm glad this is happening. It's a good time to kind of autosave. I guess we were sitting idle for a while, so ZBrush was like, oh, okay, I can do this. I guess I could also hit escape. Here we go. All right, so now that we've got this, let's go ahead and let's see what should we Canberras. We're making a mech. We've been making a mech for the last, I think, 4 or 5 episodes, and this is episode 6. All right, so why don't we do this? I'll go ahead and get started. I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do that bullet feed again. All right, so I'm going to try another version of that. And for this, I do have my brush here. So the first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and hide what's there right now. So where is it? Bullet feed, and then we are going to hide this, and we are going to hide the bullets themselves. So I've got another, same one? No, I got another one too, by the way. I tried this one as well, which kind of looks cool. So that might be another option for that. And here's the bullet feed, okay? So now the first thing I got to do is I got to determine where this starts and where this ends, right? And for that, what I did was, and I'll just bring this on. I'm not going to repeat every single step, but I can just explain it to you. So what I did is I just basically made 2 cubes. And I can, I guess, go around here. Let me duplicate this so I have a copy of it. Right, and then let's hide the duplicate. Okay, so I've got this, and what I'm going to do here is just delete what I had before. So delete polyloop, and we're just going to delete this one like that, and we're going to delete this one as well. Okay, and then we're going to delete an island here in the middle. All right, so all I have are these 2 kind of polygons, right? And they're mirrored, they're on both sides, but basically I've got this one, which basically started out as a cube. I just added a little bit of a bevel over here, which I can take out, but you guys get the idea. I don't know if I should do that or not at this juncture. So I've got this, and so if I bring this up, this is basically where the bullets are going to go into this tank. And I don't care about this other piece that's there because nobody's going to see it. Again, I could get into detail building this thing if it's going to go into specific areas, but right now we're just going into, imagining this thing is going to be seen in a game or a movie, and it's also going to maybe be a 3D printed object. So things we don't see, we don't really care about. Okay, so I've got these 2 pieces, and what I want to do is I want to bridge these 2 together. Right, let's see, I've got a bunch of different stuff. Let me send comments. What are you planning on doing with this design? 3D modeling for game animation. So basically, I'm just doing this for creating 2D images. So if you look at my website over here, or either my website or my Instagram, you can see that I do make mechs, and then I basically just have different images of them in different type of scenarios and shots. But then, I have the models, so I can, if somebody wants to put it in a game, they can just contact me and license it, license the design, and then they can use it in a game. So that's one option. And I can or they can optimize it for game usage if they want to. And then I could also have it in VR. Let's say to look at it in VR, I can have it 3D printed very easily as well. So there are a lot of different ways to use this. Of course, if I have a specific target, then I would basically do things specifically for that. But for now, it's good the way it is. Okay, so Beto Vieira. Okay, yeah, you can watch it with subtitles afterwards. Thank you very much. And if you have questions, you can ask them afterwards too, if you need the interpretation, and they will respond for you. Okay. So, I think I get that every single time that, oh, we didn't know that ZBrush did hard surface. And absolutely, I use it for hard surface, and so do a lot of great artists, and it's actually pretty good for that. Okay, so now I just basically have, coming back to this, I basically have these two rectangles here, or they're cubes with the kind of the faces cut off. And I'm pretty sure you guys can imagine how easy it is to do these things. I don't need to go and do it from scratch. And so now what I want to do here is I want to bridge these two. So I'm just going to click on an edge here, click on bridge. I'm going to bridge two holes, and there's a ton of different options here. I'm just going to leave the defaults for now. And so I'm going to go from here. It's all kind of cool to go from, whatever you're going to or from. So here, if I move my cursor up and down, it adds different divisions. And if I move it left to right, it basically creates that curve for me, right? So I can go create the curve and then add as many spans as I want. And I can do this while the entire mech is showing. And, I get some really interesting designs, but I want just something really simple. So I'm going to do the same thing again, right? So there's that. And I can first decide how many divisions I want. So that looks about right for now. And then I'll start moving back and forth just to kind of get that curvature, right? So that looks good, like that. All right, so now I basically have what I need to put the bullets in. And the funny thing is I don't really need this whole thing. It's good to have, again, to make that envelope that I had earlier for it, right? But I really don't need the whole thing. So I'm just going to go to solo here. I just need the bottom part. So I'm going to go ahead and use ZModeler to delete a poly loop. So I don't need this guy right here. I don't need this guy either. And I don't need the top part. So I'm just going to delete island. Like so. Okay, so I just need this bottom part. And I also, on this bottom part, I don't really need these guys. So I'm going to delete some more poly loops. I don't need this guy. I don't need this guy either. And I can get rid of some of these edges. And I am left with just this kind of strip, right? And then what I want to do here also is I want to go ahead and polyloop. So I want one polygroup here and another one here. And I just want to tap on all to just get different colors. So basically I have these two colors for that. Okay, so now if I bring everything back, basically I've created a bridge between where the start and the end of that that kind of feed was. Of course, I could have done this just with the edge, but I'm actually going to need this part over here later on. Okay, so there it is. And if I want to do it by edge, I can always delete these two and do it over. I think I didn't put enough edge loops in here. Maybe I should have had more. So I'm going to do that. So I'm just going to delete a single poly here and get rid of this one and this one. And let's see, where's the end here? It's here. Get rid of this one and just kind of keep deleting these different. I keep adding edge loops here, which I don't want to do. All right, so now I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to bridge. And edges. So here I'm going to bridge this edge and this edge. So as here, it just gives me the option of doing one, right? So doing it the other way was probably better. I'm not actually going to go in and do it over. I can, again, just use the one that I had before. That's why I kind of like doing things over and over again. Or, you know, I kind of like the way this one's going. So I'm just going to manually add an edge loop here, like so. And then I'm going to manually move it around. So I'm just going to use the move brush and just move it around to where I want it to go, like so. Okay, so I'm basically just manually adding one more step over here to get the curve to kind of be a little bit more conforming, right? And I could slide these edges, but I think, you know, I can just kind of eyeball these to get this type of thing going. Okay, so now that I've got this and I've got a polygroup on each side, I can just go to the stroke menu here and choose to create a mesh, a curve here that's basically framing these two different polygroups, right? So if I look at it here, you can see that in between the polygroups is created this curve for me. It looks like I basically missed a couple of things here, so I'm going to do this over. And I'm going to make sure the polygroup goes all the way around. So polygroup, polyloop, this polygroup right here. Okay, so I'm just going to change its color to something like yellow, and then this one, and change its color to something like a blue. Okay, and then frame mesh. So now the curve is going entirely the entire way. And I can still kind of come in here and do some tweaking and then reframe it until I get that curve to do exactly what I want it to do, which is basically be a smooth curve from one location to the next. Okay, so now that that's done, right, like so, I'm going to polygroup this one more time, just to make sure I get the whole thing. I actually am, okay, so there it is, and there's the curve, everything is good. So now to just put the bullets on, I just basically go choose my brush. Again, I had an older version of this that I sold a while back, but I've revised it and I've created a new version. So if I click on M here, you can kind of see that I've got the bullets, right? So these are the bullets. You can see the preview up top. And then these are the shells of those bullets. So I've got the bullets, the shells, and then I've got different feeds, like there's a whole bunch of different ones, ones with returns, ones with bullets, one without. There are these types of feeds right here, and all sorts of fun stuff you can use, right? So let's say that the one that I want is, let's find one that I want to use. How about, this one's kind of cool. Let's use this one, right? So now all I got to do, once I've chosen that brush, is, and I'll bring this off of solo, is go ahead and click here. And you can see it's pretty big. So what I'll do here is change my draw size to, let's see if 8 is good. I think 8 worked last time. Yeah, 8 is good. 8 is fine. So let's just do that. And now you can see that I'm doing it, right? But the bullets are on the bottom, and that's not where I want them to be. I want them to be on top. So in order to fix that, all I got to do is something really simple. So here I'm just going to go ahead and delete that, undo this thing, delete the curve. And notice here this is on double, so you can see here that the normals are pointing, like I don't see, this is the part that's the bottom of the thing. So all I need to do is just flip this around. And that I can do in display properties and flip. Right, so that's done. So now when I frame the mesh again and pop the bullets on, they're going to be on top, which is what I want. So that looks good. Oops, I don't want to do that. So let me hide the polyframe here and see what this is looking like. So it looks okay, but I've got mirroring and local, I've got mirroring on, so I don't want to mirror it. I'm going to turn off symmetry. And I'm going to do this one more time without the mirroring, and so that's good. Now I've got a bit of a problem here where the bullets are pointing in the wrong way, right? They're pointing backwards and I want them to point forwards. So the way to fix this is pretty simple. One thing I can do is I can regenerate the bullet, but another thing I can do is I can kind of go back to what I had before. Oops, let me bring this back. Let me delete that curve again. And what I'm going to do here is select this part again. Let's turn polyframe on. Okay, so what I want to do here is mirror it again. So I'm going to do, I'm not mirrored, I'm sorry. I'm going to flip it again. So it was what it was before, kind of what we had before. So again, just go here under display properties and flip it. And if I have double off, you can see that it's still there, but I don't see it because it is upside down. So I can see it from the bottom, but not from the top. And then next thing I do is go in and recreate that curve again. Frame mesh, polygroups, there it is. There's the curve. There are the bullets. Now they're pointing the right way. However, they're underneath what the thing, and that's not where I want it to be. So easy fix. I can just kind of move this depth slider, which is in the brush menu, and redo it that way. So now it's good. It's a little bit too high, maybe about there. Redo it again. So all I'm doing is just tapping on the curve, maybe a little bit more like this. And that looks like where it needs to be. So pretty kind of straightforward process to get the bullet feed there. So now that that's done, I can, to accept it, I can just snapshot it. So there it is. And then I'm going to delete the curve. So now there's that. Now remember that that plane underneath it is still there, right? And I don't want it to be there. So I'm going to solo this out. Okay, so I don't need this plane anymore. I'm going to hide it. So here I'm just going to select a little bit of it. Control A to select the rest. So there are the two sides. I don't have symmetry on, I guess. I should turn that on and do this over. Right, so just select a little bit of that, and then Control Shift A will select the whole thing. And then what I want to do is just reverse this so I can just see the bullets, and then split hidden. So I basically can keep a copy of that ribbon that I had just in case I need it again. So now there are the bullets that are going into the tank, like so. And that's all good. And then what I can do is now to do that other thing that I did, I can just bring back that envelope that it was in, which is this, right? And so there's that. And then what I can do here is duplicate that again. One more time. So there is that. Okay, so I've got, let's see, I'm going to make sure I've got 2 copies of this. Yep. And then here, this thing, I don't really need it to have this topology anymore because I'm going to use dynamics with it. It doesn't really have as many polygons as I like it to. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to zero mesh it. So zero mesh it, and I'm going to keep the groups, right? So zero mesh, keep groups, and let's just see what the default will do. Okay, so it just gives me this kind of weird. I didn't really want it to be that way. But let me try and do it without keeping the groups, because I don't really care about the groups at this point. And this is basically what I want, evenly divided geometry throughout. Okay, so now I've got basically what I need to do my simulation. I'm going to go to solo. And now I don't really, you know, the person who was asking me before is I don't really need a lot of stuff. So I'm going to hide a lot of the things I don't need. I don't need a lot of the, go to the hull top here. I don't need a lot of that stuff. So all I need is the bullet feed, which is inside here. And then I need these kind of, I don't even know if I even need this part right here. I just need the top of the mech. So let me go make that visible. I just need that part. Oops, not everybody. Guess I'll just have to manually turn these off. Actually, it's probably easier just to do this and then that. Choose this, shift click, and then just click on that. All right, and then there's that. And then just bring up the things that I need. So basically I need the bullet feed, which is this one. I think this is the new one. Yep. And also to bring up this thing right here. I swear there are neighbors of mine that are quiet the whole time. Every time I start podcasting or doing the stream, they start talking really loud outside. Like outside, right outside my window. It's funny. Okay, so all right, so basically I got what I need here, and so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to say, okay, within the dynamics window, right here, what I'm going to do is do a little bit of tweaking. First thing I'm going to do is calculate the collision volume. And what I want is I want that inflate to be pretty low. Okay, and recalc it, right? Resolution is 2048, so that gives me some good resolution on this. Okay, and then what I want to do is I want to expand this, and I also want to deflate it. All right, so gravity strength here of 10 is pretty high, so I'll just leave it at 1. I know you guys are asking questions. I'll get to it in just a minute. That would be a 1 here. And I'll just run the simulation to see what I get. So I basically got this, which is okay, not exactly what I want. So I'm going to add some iterations here. So let's go to 256. And maybe the gravity strength, let me half that. Let's see what we get there. Run simulation, stop. Okay, so I'm getting something interesting here. Run, stop. I'm getting something interesting here. So now that I've kind of got the basics of what I want, I can just go in and choose some of these cloth brushes. So like maybe cloth nudge, and just go in here and just nudge these, choose a bigger draw size here, and nudge this around until I get to what I want. Maybe not deflated anymore. And just move this around like so. And again, it's going to conform to what's underneath. Now, if I want to get a little bit more detail, I can go in and do one other thing here. I will answer all those questions. Just have a little bit of patience. Let's see here. I want to turn on dynamic subdiv. So that gives me a little bit more points with smooth subdivision 2. And I can do another thing here, which kind of creates a cool effect, is go in here and under dynamic here. I don't have it on my menu here. I'm just going to do it in the menu itself. So geometry, dynamic subdiv, which is the first one. Here, is it the first one? Let me make sure. I think it is, yeah. First menu. And then under here, I'm going to go ahead and turn on micropoly. And let's try this one right here. So now not only do I have a thing on top here, but I also have some sort of, and for this I usually turn symmetry off just because I want to get something that looks asymmetrical. So here I can, let me go back to when it's bigger here like so. And before it's going into the object, okay, undo history has gone away, that's fine. So now here I'm just manually kind of moving this up and down. I guess dynamic turned off, turn it back on. And let's add that micropoly again. How about this one right here? Okay, so now I've got kind of, not only do I have it conforming to the bullets, but I also have like an interesting pattern on top. And I can just move this around a little bit until I get something that looks interesting on this side, and then repeat the same thing on the other side, so I get asymmetry. And it's kind of cool to have asymmetry when you have, and all I'm doing is just nudging these around just to kind of get some folds here. All right, so there's that pretty easy, straightforward way of just adding a bullet feed. And again, these bullets that I have, this brush, I'm going to make available soon. I just have to figure out what the best way to productize it is. I want to have a kind of a really inexpensive or free version, and also have a kind of more comprehensive version as well. And these are pretty high resolution. I also might want to have some low res versions for games and whatnot. So, but they're pretty cool, and you know, they will save you a lot of time if you need to create a bullet belt going between something and a gun. All right, so time to answer some questions. Okay, were you Okay, so where do I usually render it? It depends. So here, for example, on Instagram, I just rendered a couple of things out of ZBrush. So this is rendered out of ZBrush right here. Pretty straightforward. This was rendered out of ZBrush as well. And then sometimes I render it with PBR. So it basically, let's see if I've got one of those in here. I think I do. Which basically is a render in ZBrush, but it's not, it's more like a cartoon or whatever. Where is it? Like this one's a PBR rendered one, or NPR, a non-photorealistic. So I can do some non-photorealistic renders like this, or, and I think I've got some mechs in here too that look really good. Here's an example of a non-photorealistic render. So and here, this is one I was looking for. So you can see here, I've got these mechs. They're pretty detailed and everything like that, but I've rendered them kind of for a graphic novel or something that's going to be more illustrational. And I do that right out of ZBrush. It's got some really powerful tools. Here's another one. That's a non-photorealistic render, straight out of ZBrush. Didn't have to do anything. Maybe, I don't even know if I'd loaded this into Photoshop. I think it's right out of ZBrush. And then sometimes I render in KeyShot when I want something a little bit more detailed. Like, for example, this is a tutorial that I did on Gnomon Workshop, which basically I built this mech and rendered it. And you can kind of see, here's another one that's rendered in KeyShot. And you can get a little bit more photorealistic and a little bit more detailed in that. Yeah, I mean, you can do a lot with ZBrush. This was done in ZBrush as well, just right out of ZBrush. No extra renderer, external renderer at all. So yeah, most of the times either render out of ZBrush or render in KeyShot. Sometimes I render in Octane. I really like Octane for some types of renders. And also sometimes I use RenderMan. So it all depends. But my go-to is, I'll try to see how far I can get with ZBrush on its own. Most of the time it works well. And sometimes I kind of like to maybe go into KeyShot. KeyShot is really kind of my go-to renderer for if I just want to press a button and get everything into a renderer and start working on it. So hopefully that answers that question. Yeah, the bullet. I did make the bullets myself, and again, I'm going to be selling those. Do I use a graphic tablet? So yeah, I use Wacom. I've always used Wacom. I've used them for a very long time, and I just have a tablet. I've got an Intuos Pro Medium, and I've gone through different versions of it. I've got the newest one right now, and I like it a lot. I would not recommend. I know very few people that actually use ZBrush without a tablet. It definitely makes a big difference. And also, if you're going to work for a long time, tablets are good because they basically, it's like holding a pencil. So when you're in school, you're writing a lot. Same thing with a tablet, because you're basically using a pencil on a surface. And I have a portable Cintiq as well that I use if I'm somewhere working. But if I have heavy duty work, I usually plug my tablet into it too, because I don't want my hand to be on top of the screen. It's just a personal preference. So my personal preference is to use a tablet. But that said, I've really not worked on a big Cintiq, and I know people that have swear by it. So it all depends. It all depends on what you want to do. But at a minimum, I would highly recommend at least having an Intuos tablet to do your work. All right, so bringing all these things back here. Where did my area is? Okay, so there are the pilots, and let's bring all the things up. So the bullet feed is pointing backwards. No, it's are they? Was that the case? Let's make sure. If that's the case, it's an easy fix, and I think you're right. I think that's a good thing to bring up, by the way. If I look at the bullets here, and by the way, when I do make these available, I will have a tutorial on how to do them. Okay, so you can see here, these ones right here are pointing in the right direction. But since I just popped the curve on, this one is pointing in this direction, which is not what I want. So easy enough fix. All I need to do is just select this one right here. Let me turn symmetry off first. So here, just select this one and delete the hidden stuff, and then just mirror and weld this to the other side. So now the bullets are both pointing in the right direction, right? Good point to bring up. Let's see, who said that? Eluadyl. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'll give it a try. Eluadyl? Yeah, I don't know. All right, so so that's how you'd fix that. And that's because I basically had a curve on each side. Usually, I guess it's a better idea to just do one side first and then just mirror it over. But I do want these outside parts. I mean, the bullet feeds have to be symmetrical. That's okay. That's not a big deal. But this kind of outside part, I want it to be asymmetrical, so it creates a bit of a visual interest. And I'm liking this new one too. Now I've got one more I can work with, which is kind of nice. And then let's bring up the rest of this guy. Dude, why are you talking outside my window? There's like a whole area you can talk. Jeez Louise. All right, so I just brought a lot of things back that I don't really want to see. I'll just hide some of them again. I don't see this thing here for now, and not this thing either, or this thing like that. Okay, and then let's see. I think it brought back one of these feeds over here, which I also don't want to see. So let's hide that as well. Nope, that I do want to see. This I do not want to see, and those are the bullets. So we basically have two bullets now that we can choose from. I kind of like the ones I had before, but it's all good. And then to hide this, I'm just going to select it. It's this guy right here, and let's hide that. Okay, I think, and then there's another one of these that's showing underneath, which I don't want, that one. So let's hide that as well. And so again, this thing that I'm doing right now would be a lot easier if I had these in folders, like I had them in separate folders. So you know, it sounds like this when I go, okay, I'll just separate them out. But for now, they're fine. Okay, so the legs are good, hips are good, and what's cool is I've got this kind of, you know, this is what the mech looks like sitting down. This is what it was like when we started, right? So we've gone a long way from this to this, but a lot of the stuff is the same, right? A lot of the gestural stuff is the same. A lot of the kind of the primary forms are the same. So it really helps to have both of those there. All right, so let's hide the sitting mech, and let's hide the bunch of people that shows us how high up the mech is. All right, and then I think we've got a couple more things to hide, and then we're good to go. This one can go. And let's see, I think, which one's this one right here? Oh, I'm selecting it, that's why it's still there. All right, and then this top one right here, I don't want to see that one either. And all right, let's just kind of stay with this right now. Okay, so let's see. So Ying Kelly is asking me what this is. It's a mech. It's a mechanized, it's a walking tank, basically, is what it is. When did I start ZBrush? I've been using ZBrush for a very long time. And so first I got it way back when, I think 2005, I want to say, is when I first got it. And you know, it was it didn't have a lot of the things it has now. So I used to do a lot of work in Maya, but over time it had more things, and I learned it more and more. And I've been using it so about 15 years, I guess, more than 16 years. Yeah. But you know, I did take some classes, and I did work with some artists. Okay, so can YouTube see the Twitch chat? I don't think so. I don't know. I was going to sculpting with a brick. Yeah, you know, that's true. All right, so I've got something in looks like Chinese here, which I don't know what that is. So I'm going to copy it and pop it into Google Translate and see if I can respond to you. Okay. Okay, yeah, thank you that you're dazzled. Okay, Blender's better for hard surface. You know, I don't know if I would agree with that. I think Blender has a box cutter, which is really nice, and it does create some nice hard surface elements, and I like it, use it for that. But I don't know if I would use words like better, because it depends on the artist, right? I mean, there are people that do amazing things with different programs. I think for freedom of working and freedom of design, I can't beat ZBrush with anything else. Blender, Maya, I know Maya pretty well. Blender I'm learning, and I like both programs. I think they're good, but they have a lot of other things as well. ZBrush is just about creating form, and they're really good at it. Okay, if you're gonna start from scratch, well, you know what I would do is, and I also teach, by the way, and I teach a school that teaches both Maya and ZBrush, and I find that a lot of students tend to like Maya more, and a lot of students tend to like ZBrush more. So there's definitely, and then there's students that like both, and of course there's students that like neither. But most students, you know, kind of gravitate towards one or the other, because it kind of it works more the way they do. So I would say, you know, yeah, start with Blender. It's free. You can start with it, and you can also start with ZBrush Core Mini. That's free as well. And then just try them out, and then see kind of, you know, if you like one over the other. Give yourself some projects, or take on some projects and do them, and then you can kind of figure it out yourself. Are there sculpting layers? Yeah, there are. All right, Jimmy, thanks. Okay, so sculpting layers, right? So let's do that. So here, let's say I'm going to do some kind of creating some forms on top of the hull top here. So I'm going to choose this hull top. I'm going to duplicate it. All right, so I've got two of these guys. Hide the first one, and basically what I'm going to sculpt is this piece right here, right? So I'm going to sculpt on this guy. But what I want to do is, first of all, I'm just going to go ahead and solo it out, and I'm going to go ahead and zero mesh it just so I get some evenly distributed topology. I'm going to turn on symmetry first. So I can get it to look. It is a symmetrical object, so that helps. And then I'm also going to, with zero mesher, I'm going to detect edges. I don't care about keeping groups and anything else, so I'm just going to go ahead and let's try and just use the defaults. See what we get, and this is good enough like that. I don't have enough geometry to sculpt on, so what I'm going to do here is go ahead and add a couple of subdivision levels, but with smooth off. So 1, 2, and then one with smooth on. So this is basically what I have, a pretty dense mesh. And then if I go to, let's say, Damien standard brush, let's see what that looks like. I see a little bit of faceting here, but I'm not really worried about it, and that's kind of good enough for what I need. Okay, so now if I want to start putting in some cut lines, and there's another brush I like for cut lines, which is this one. What I'll do here is just go to the H-polish brush and just kind of hit some of these planes, just so I can get that planar look for them, so I don't get that kind of pixelated. I'm going to try actually something else. Let's see if I can get something better than that. So here I'm just going to go back to this original. I wouldn't subdivide this just because I would get uneven polygons, which is not what I want. To sculpt, you probably want evenly distributed polygons. I'm going to try something completely different here, which is I'm going to go ahead and zero mesh this again, and I'm going to actually go for double the count just to get a little bit more detail. That's like actually not as much as I would like, so I'm going to turn off adaptive and double and just choose I don't care about that. I just actually want to choose number of polygons, so let's do that. Zero mesh that. Let's see, I just want to get more polygons from the zero mesh. And yeah, I think that's kind of what I wanted. So now I can go ahead and divide, but this time I'm going to divide with smooth on and divide one more time. And I think that gives me enough polygons to work with. Okay, and just kind of use this again to get some of those sharp angles back. I need to divide it one more time. Okay, so there I am, and then I go into this cut line thing. So now, if I want to start putting in these cut lines, I want to do it on a sculpting layer. I can just go down here onto layers, and in layers, I can just create a new layer. So now this layer is on, and it is recording, right? So then I can just start drawing my cut lines. And maybe I want it to be smaller. Let's see how deep these go. That's good. Maybe a little bit deeper. Dude, they're still outside talking. Cracks me up. All right, let me make this lazy mouse a little bit longer. Over here, where is it? Oops, wrong menu. All right, this one, lazy mouse, and then I'm basically making my lazy radius up to 100 here. About, yeah, that's good. And so now I got a bigger line I can draw from. So now I'm drawing these kind of cut lines like this. You know, I'm just basically arbitrarily drawing these. They're not going to stay or anything. And I just wanted to demonstrate that here's basically the layer, and then you can just go down in that, you know, once you have that layer there, you can just go ahead and turn it off, and then you can just basically choose how much you want it to go extrude out, or if you want it to go in, right? So you basically are choosing how to do this. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is by using morph targets, and so that's a whole other menu. So here I'm just going to go ahead and delete this layer. Right? And I'm just going to use morph target, which is kind of really cool too, because you can do other things with morph target too. So here's morph target. I'm going to store that morph target. It's stored, and then I can just go in here and do my cut lines again. Like so, and then here in the morph menu I can do the same thing where I can just kind of go, you know, choose how deep that goes and go all the way back to normal, right? So basically I can choose the depth based on that. Okay, and then you can also create a difference mesh. You can do all sorts of different stuff. And then you can delete the morph target if you don't want it. So there's different, you know, there's different ways of doing all these things, and they both have their uses. So not only can you do it in one way, but you can do it in another way as well. Okay, so all right, yeah, you know, you know, for me that's the case. You know, I can work pretty fast in ZBrush, but more so than you know, the speed of work. I think the thing that I like ZBrush for more is that I get to design. It gives me more freedom to design, right? Versus, excuse me, a lot of times people that use Maya or other programs, usually the design is done for them, and they just use the programs to basically create the objects themselves. All right. So let's bring everybody back and let's start working on something else. So let's see. The other thing is let's do a railing. Let's do a new railing. Let me do that. So I like the ones that are there. They're not bad, but maybe I can do something better. Maybe not. Who knows? But we'll try. Okay, so there's this one and there's this one. I'm going to leave this one on just so I have kind of a rough idea of where I want the railings to go. Okay, and then all I need to do here is just go in where the railing is, select it, and insert. Let's see, I can probably decrease my subtool count to maybe about 12 here. I'm going to go in here and just append a z-sphere like so. All right, it's down there. It's pretty big. I don't want it to be that big. So what I'm going to do, well, first of all, let's go ahead and select the z-sphere like so. And then I'm just going to scale this so it's smaller. I'm also going to turn on symmetry because I want symmetric to work on it symmetrically, and then I'm going to move this up kind of about where I want the root of this railing to be. So here I'm just using the move up here, move, and then again this is way too thick and big, so I'm going to go ahead and resize it to about what I want the size of the railing to be. So here I'm going to turn on transparency so I can see through this, and I want to move this down to here, and since I've got symmetry activated, I know it's going to be in the middle. So about yay thick sounds good, maybe a little bit thinner, like so. Okay, and then let's see, how does it fit from the top? All right, so there it is, right? So there's that. And now what I want to do is create the rest of it. So the way I do that, since I already have this, it's going to be easy for me to do it. But even if I don't, I'll do it a different way. So what I usually do, I'm just going to solo this out. I'm going to create another Z-sphere. So here I'm going to go to draw mode. So draw over here, and then just draw out these two Z-spheres, and if I hold shift down, it's going to create two Z-spheres that are the same size. And then if I go to move, I can move these out like so. Okay. So now you can see that I'm basically starting with the railing. And what I will do here is I'm going to go from the start of where this railing started all the way to the end. Right. And this might not make sense right now, but it will very soon. And then just move this to where the railing is going to end. So it's going to end about here. So I'm just going to move it, get a couple angles on it just to make sure it's where I need it to be, maybe embed it a little bit more to here. Okay, so I've got the ends, and I've also got where this thing started. So now I can just go to draw mode and just draw some links. And the benefit of doing it this way is that I don't have to resize these or hold shift down or anything like that. I know that since the two ends are the same, that everything in between is going to be the same size. So now I'll just go to move and just move these into place, right? I just want to make sure, though, that I click on the Z-spheres themselves and not the bones. Because if I click on the bones, it's going to affect everything, and I don't really want to touch all that. What happened there? I think I inadvertently clicked on another subtool. No worries. I know where my Z-sphere is. It's at the end. It's there, and there it is. Okay. So now I'm just going to make sure I click on the Z-sphere itself. So I can just move the Z-sphere to where this is. Like that's a corner right there. And then again, you need to rotate your model just to kind of get that angle correctly. I'm just kind of positioning this to where the previous one was. You don't have to, of course. I can come up with a new design, but I kind of like what I had before, so I'm just going to go with that. Here I want to move this one so I can kind of get a straight line. Okay, so that's the first part. And then, you know, I've basically added all these Z-spheres. I can just move them to the different locations. And I just want to make sure I move the sphere. What am I going to move? And not the bone. And what I mean by the bone is like what's in between the spheres. If I move those, then it will move everything from that point forward, and that's not what I want to do. Also, maybe turn perspective on. I think that would be a good idea. Or turn it off, sorry. Okay, I'm going to hit escape here. I don't want to autosave. And let's move this over to here. I should autosave, but I think I'm good. I'm going to gamble that it's not going to be an issue. So there's that. And there's this one. And let's add a few more. There's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. Then just go to move again and just move these into place. And you can see here, just so easy and simple to do. Of course, the vertical is not right. Let me hide these guns so I can see where I'm going. All right, there they are. Let's see, do we have any questions? Morph target plus morph brush, nice combo, that's right. So good question. How many polys do I have right now? If I go over to here, it should tell me, I think overall I've got about, looks like about 15 million polys. So, you know, it's up there, but still not where it needs to be. You know, it's probably going to get a lot more, but then I could also shed a lot of pieces. So this is counting everything, right? The 15 million is counting everything, but I'm not really going to, really use a lot of things that are here, and also things that are here I'm probably going to subdivide and by the time I'm done with it. So I'm going to be adding a lot more, but again, I'm trying to keep things as low poly as I can for as long as I can. Because like you said, that smoothness is really important. Because once things get bogged down, then you are in a world of hurt. And you have to separate things out and do them separately, and that's not always fun. It's a bit tricky to just grab that Z-sphere by itself. It's kind of small, but not that tough. Right, so now I've got basically an outline of what I had before, and now I got to do the legs. And for the legs, I don't really need the rest of the mesh, so I'm just going to solo this out for now and go over here. And I know that from everywhere I've got one of these Z-spheres, I need to have something that goes down, right? So again, pretty simple. Go to draw mode, draw it out, hold the shift key to get that same size. And I'm going to do the exact same thing here, exact same thing here. Oops. Like so, one more. And Z-spheres are pretty useful. I think people make fun of Z-spheres and ZBrush and whatnot, but I mean, this is a very specific purpose for it, but also when you look at other things like creating a kind of a form for something, Z-spheres are a really cool way of just kind of blocking something out. I need really small brush size here just to pull these guys out, like so. All right, so there they are. And now I'll just bring this up and start positioning these where they need to go. And again, I'm trying to keep my Z-spheres to a minimum right now, just because I want to get that general shape into place. And again, what's really nice about this is you can do a lot of what if type of stuff, and I will do that in a minute, like just kind of do some design kind of ideation as to what the best way would be for this railing to be there. All right, there's that. All right, so I'm going to turn transparency off just to kind of make sure that these Z-spheres are actually protruding going inside the mech. Again, I don't really care about a lot of things about them right now. I just want to go ahead and mimic as much as what I had before. This one, finally, they left. Nope, they're back. Okay. All right, so there we go. Like so. All right, so now if I just hide the old one, I don't need it anymore. Like so. Now I just basically have this kind of contraption. And when I press A, it goes into adaptive skin and gives me this. Still not exactly what I want, but not bad, right? But things I don't like are, I don't like these sharp edges here, and I don't like these kind of sharp edges, so I can soften those out pretty easily. Again, let me just go to off of adaptive skin, and the way I do that is by just adding Z-spheres in between. So I'm just going to get this at a good angle, press F, zoom in on it. Okay, so here, notice that this is kind of, you know, it's giving me a lot sharper angles than I want, so I'm just going to go ahead and go back into draw mode and draw some Z-spheres to go around these different hard angles here to soften them up. This one's a little bit harsh too, so is this one. And again, where you put these spheres isn't really that important, but they basically, you know, if you really think about it as like if you use splines or something like that, you're just basically adding kind of a pivot point, or I forget what it's called in Illustrator or in some other program. Tension points, or again, just make sure you're clicking on the spheres and not the bones, because you want to keep, and then you can just kind of maybe give it a little bit of an angle like this, and then here just kind of give it a little bit more of a smooth angle. This one's a bit too harsh, so let's break that up, and let's break this one up too. All right, press A again. So now you can see that that edge is not as harsh as it was. And also with this, let me put this at the center of it. Also with this kind of thing that I've got here, the Z-sphere rig that I've got here, the adaptive skin, it doesn't really have the settings that I want finally. So to get the settings that I want, I just go to adaptive skin here. First of all, I turn off Dynamesh, so I get something more like this. And you can see here I'm getting pretty decent topology for what I'm working on. And I can reduce the density here to 1. Okay. And notice it's creating some nice polygroups for me as well. Let's see, do we have questions? Also, you can get a curve from spheres. Yes, good point. I will show you that as well. Yep, you definitely can. Okay, so I think what you're saying is this. So here is my Z-sphere rig, and if I want to get curves from this, I can. So let's do the first method first, and then I'll do the curves method later. Okay, so if I do the preview, here it is. Maybe add one more density item to it, like density of 2, and that gives me something pretty nice. Okay, now if I want these to be even nicer over here, this transition right here, if I want that to be nicer, I can just go in and add a Z-sphere at the bottom as well, and that will give me a nicer transition between the two edges. 2 here and 2 here, just to kind of break that up. I think I've got them there, I've got them there, just a few more here. Now if I press A, you will notice that that transition got a little bit better, not exceptionally better, but not bad. And if I'm looking at it from this distance, it looks pretty good. Okay, and I can also continue to kind of break up, that curve, that kind of sharp edge over here, and that's what I'm doing. It's kind of smoother, and yeah, I just want to make sure I don't get the kind of. So now I've got a lot of different choices. One is I can just generate this adaptive skin and use it. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Right? Let me see if I add more density to it. That's not too bad of a railing. Okay, so that's one thing I can do. The other thing I can also do is, if I like the way this looks, I can also replace the bones with meshes, right? So here I can just go back to classic skinning and click on a bone here. I think I need to be in move mode. So here I've got this bone. And I can insert a connector mesh, and I'm just going to use the same kind of flat one that I had before. So now I have this flat piece inserted in between the two spheres, right? And I can do that for every single one of these guys. So I can just go in and select, that, and connector mesh, and pop in those pieces. So that's another thing I can do. So there's, that's one way, right? And that's how I got this railing right here. So this flat one that you see over here, right? That's how I got that one. Let me hide the Z-sphere one and just go to that. this one right here is how I got that kind of flat railing. So I tried that out. It looked good. So I might use that. I'm not sure. The problem with that, of course, is that it's not connected, right? So you can see that there are openings in between. But I can put different joints or other things in here that could would take care of that. And here is still a, yeah, this is still a Z-sphere model too. I can still modify it. Okay, so then there's this one that we're working on. Let me hide that one. Okay, and then so that's one way of doing it. Now another way of doing it is I can go in here, and this is something they just added. It was, I think, a plugin before, but now it's part of ZBrush. And it's this curves helper. It's in the stroke menu. So bottom of the stroke menu, it says curves helper. And then what you can do here is you can copy that Z-sphere chain. So that's copied. And then you can click on create curve. And what that does is basically creates a curve of those Z-spheres. Right? So basically I've got a curve here that has that same exact shape as those Z-spheres had. And what's nice about this is I can use any kind of curve brush. So here, let's choose which one. How about curve tube? And if I just click on this once, bam, done. So that basically creates this railing for me. And it actually does a pretty decent job, right? And if I want it to be thinner or thicker, I can do that as well. So here I can just choose a bigger draw size and then just click on that curve. Now it's thicker. So that's another way of doing the same thing. So yeah, so the nice thing about this is at any point in time, if I go, you know, I don't really like this or whatever, you know, I don't have to go back and model a whole new railing. I can just change the Z-spheres around and move them around and then regenerate the curve, regenerate the adaptive skin, etc. So we've got all these different ways of creating railings. This actually doesn't look bad. I'm going to keep it. Let's see. I think I also still have the Z-sphere rig as well, so I can keep that and work on it later on. Yeah, so the only thing to know here is that when you do this, let me solo that out, it actually creates an extra cube for you, and if you don't want that cube, no worries. So excuse me. Here what I'm going to do is just in the stroke menu, just go ahead and snapshot or just accept this curve. I'm gonna, let's see if I delete the curves. Yeah, I can just delete the curves. I don't need them anymore. So I just have this underlying piece. And notice here that this top part is one piece, and these are different pieces as well. And then I'll also show you a way you can kind of fix that. But yeah, it also creates that cube down here. And if you don't want that cube, of course, you can just kind of select this, delete hidden, and that cube is gone. All right, so that's another way of creating that railing. And now to kind of hide these in-between pieces, you can just use my primitives brush. And I think for this you need the pro version of the primitives brush. So let's see, where are you? I have it in my menu. So this is these are my primitives. It's basically an insert mesh brush that has primitives, and I'll show you where this guy is. So if you want to find this, you just go to my website here, Kermaco.com, and on top there's my Gumroad. And if you go to my Gumroad, there is the free version here, which has 17. I added a couple. Or you can get the one that has 33. And the one that has 33 has some of the things that I'll be using now. But again, I just basically made this available for free because 99% of the folks probably will use these parts. And there'll be some other people that use the others. And they can pay, what do I have it for? $2.50. They can pay $2.50 for it. Okay, so here are some of the things that you can use. Like this is one of them right here. This piece. So I will just use this piece right here, and let's say I want to add that over here, right? So I just basically insert that brush. Let's turn symmetry on. So I just add it to the other side. And if you just hold Control down, it just does that, and then you can resize it to the right size. Do I have local symmetry on? No, let me do that first. So yeah, you can just resize it. And then just move it and place it to where you want it to go, which is like that and like this. Right, so a lot of times when you see railings, they basically have these kind of things that hold them together. Now that's not really going to bend with the with your railing, but it will, if you make it big enough, it will basically house it like so. And move this in. Just get it to kind of be where it needs to be. And for this, it helps if you solo, get everything else out of the way, and just kind of move this to where you want it to go. You might need to rotate around the object just to kind of get the right perspective, but here we go, here we go. Okay, so that looks good from the bottom part. And then for the top part, you can just mask, and I'll do that too. You might need to spend a little bit of time, not too much, but you can get it to do what you want it to do. All right, so just make sure that the bottom one is aligned first. These people are just going to have the biggest conversation of their life outside while I'm doing my streaming. All right. Can you guys hear him? I'm just curious. Can you guys hear the conversation that's going on outside? If you can't, that's good. That means I got a good microphone. It just disturbs me a little bit. Not much. All right, so you can see that that piece kind of conforms to this part, and then you mask these two parts, and then just move this one. Oops. And then just move this other part here. Let me unmask it. The thing also to do, which I didn't do, is separate these out, so you basically have a separate subtool. So I mean, let me do that from this point forward. So here, I'm just going to go ahead and say split. Let me undo this and do this. Shift-A and split hidden. This is just one way of doing this. You can do it in a different way as well. So now that you've done this, you can't be on solo because you got to see the other piece, but it's good enough. So now I'm just going to go in here and I think the thing to do is just isolate these two. So I'm going to hide everything else. And I think that's enough. That's good enough. So here now it's a separate subtool, so it'll be easier to mask and unmask specific parts of it. And I'm still on, let me go to the move brush. So there's that. And then if you want to move the other part, right, what you do is just mask all this and move this to, you know, conform to that edge. So you can do it this way, or, you know, I mean, there's different ways of doing this thing. You know, this is one way of doing it, and I'll probably will do this for this mech, is I will use my brush to do it. So there's that, and you can just do that all over, everywhere, and then you basically will have something that has railings that look very realistic. And again, you don't really need a whole lot of geometry for this. A little bit of geometry will do the trick. So here I'm just using the move brush just to kind of tweak this into place a little bit, like so. So it's hard surface. It's not CAD hard surface, but it does the job. And again, if you're looking at it from this distance, it does what you need it to do. All right, so there's that. All right. Okay, cool. All right, so then you basically, you know, put one in the back, put one in the corner, and it's easy enough to just to put one in every one of these junctions. Maybe there's an easier way of doing that as well. Let's see if there is. I'm going to try another thing here. I just thought of it while I'm doing this. So with the adaptive skin, one of the things you can do, well, before I do that, I need to go back to my brush over here. So, and choose that part that I was working on. And I got to do one other thing here, which is mesh from brush. And I think I have that in my shortcuts, but I think I'm going to find it here. Where is that? Brush menu, and it's under create, and where are No, or is it? Oh no, it's here. It's under geometry. So why I like to have my own UI is because I can put things that I use all the time in my menus. So the thing I am looking for is under geometry and modify topology. Where are you? Let me go to another object here. Let me go to this one. And what I want to do, and by the way, this is just another shape I was making to add to my brush set. This will be in the next version that I add. But what I want to do here is just go to geometry, modify topology, and where are you? Mesh from brush. There you are. Bam. Okay, so now this basically created this piece for me. And what I want to do here is, let me append polymesh and do it with that because I want to keep this part. So a mesh from brush, modify geometry, mesh from brush. There you are. To be on the subtool, W, choose the piece, and there it is. Okay, so it's already there. Let's unify it just for kicks. And this goes away, and so there it is, right? So, and then just rotate it around like that. And what I want to do here is I basically want to use this piece as its own thing. So I'm going to move this down to here. There it is. And this whole thing was so that I can go back over to here. And I'm going to try and see if this will work. So here under adaptive skin, probably won't work, but it's a good thing to try. And if you don't try things, you don't add to your workflow. And so now what I want to do here is I want to just select a Z-sphere, like let's say this one. Okay, it's selected. And go to use classic skinning and insert local mesh and insert this guy. Let's see if that worked. Under adaptive skin, it did work, but it inserted it kind of small, so I don't know if there's a way to make this bigger. Let's see. Yeah, so I think, did I add another Z-sphere? I did add another Z-sphere. So let me go to move, select that Z-sphere, use classic skinning, insert local mesh, and for that I'm going to insert this guy. All right, so it did insert it, but it didn't insert it the way I want, so that's not going to work. All right, well, we went down a rabbit hole that didn't pay off. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does, but it's always good to try certain things. And basically what I was trying to do is when you use classic skinning, you can either replace the Z-spheres or the connectors with something. So I was trying to replace the Z-sphere with that shape, and it wasn't working. Maybe there's a way to make it work, but it'll be too much of a headache. So I'll probably just use it using the method that I talked about. All right, so there's that. Let's go back to the whole thing here, and let's go ahead and hide this guy. All right, so let's see, where is it? It's right here. Okay, I don't know why it's still selecting the Z-sphere one. Okay, so there we basically will have the railing like this, and then we'll have all these connectors, and I'll probably create something for the base here too to have it be there. All right, so how are we doing on time? Oh, wow. Okay, we're got about 25 minutes left. Let's bring the guns back. Right, so now all I got to do is work on the on these things on top, right? So I have these mirrors. I want to do another one of these, another kind of go at these mirrors, and the way to do that is again pretty straightforward. So here I'll just go to the. This is going to happen on the hull top. It's like Hilltop from The Walking Dead, but it's a hull top, and then we'll just go ahead and insert a polymesh 3D. So I basically made a macro to do this. It basically inserts a polymesh 3D like this, and then I basically bring up my insert mesh brush here, and I just go ahead and choose a cube. Let's start out with a cube like this. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move this to the center of the world, and I'm also going to solo it. I'm just going to be working on it by itself. All right, and here, if I turn polyframe on, I can see that it's a 1 by 1 by 1 cube. So, excuse me. The good question you have here is that what is a better blockout, in my opinion, z-spheres or primitives or primitive shape manipulation? It's a good question, and the answer is it depends on what I'm trying to do. There are certain things that adhere better to z-spheres, and there are things that adhere better to using like something like QMesh and ZBrush. So it all depends on what shape I'm going for. I don't think one is better than the other. I think they're both good. It just depends on what you're using it for. All right, so here I'm just going to insert an edge loop over this way, like so. And this is going to be a mirror. It's going to be wide, so I'm just going to make it a bit wider, like that. And I'm going to insert another edge loop over here, and then I'm going to use slide to move this down like so. All right, so this is one mirror like that, and what I want to do is I want to create a circle of these guys. Now the best way to do this is by using array mesh. So turn array mesh on, like so. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have a repetition of, let's do 8 of them. I go all the way around. Okay, and so now here I've got 8 of them, and I'm going to rotate them around Y. So there's the Y amount. And I'm going to go all the way to a, oops, this is offset. Let's go to rotate. And I'm going to rotate these around Y. And so I'm going to do 360 degrees. I'm going to go all the way around. Right, so this really doesn't work for me because they're all on top of each other. I mean, this would be great if I was creating a 3D asterisk, but that's not what I'm doing. So here, I'm just going to click on lock position to lock the position of the pivot and then just move this out. Like so, right? So now it's basically creating those for me. And what's nice about this is I only need to modify one of these guys, and the other ones will have the same kind of characteristics. So I'm thinking this is looking a lot better like this. And notice here I can change the height of it. I can, mask this part out, move this part up, down, whatever, to get a different shape. So that's kind of looking good. Maybe I want this to be a little bit thicker, like so. But then they're touching each other, so I kind of move them out. Right, so I basically play around like this until I get the shape that I want. Now also remember you can do, if you don't want these kind of hard, sharp edges, you can always go to dynamic subdiv and turn QGrid on. Let's go a little bit more like so, and then coverage, and then you can kind of get something a little bit softer like this. The good news is that this is still very low poly geometry, okay, so getting like a weird kind of thing over here. So let's see if we can fix that. So again, that's all under geometry and dynamic subdiv. And let's see if I can change that so I don't get that little bit of a thing there. That looks good. So that looks good. I think this is kind of what I'm going to be going with, like so. But I want to do a few more other things here before I commit to this. So I'm going to go in here and polygroup a single poly and just change this front polygroup to something else. Let's see if I can find a nice reddish looking color. There we go. Right, so I just wanted to kind of separate this out, and this is looking okay for me for now. So let's go ahead and build a base. So I'm going to polygroup or QMesh polygroup island like so. Polygroup island like that, and bring this down. So that's basically just creating a base, and I'm going to polygroup the poly loop. Oops. QMesh to polyloop, sorry. There we go, and that basically is giving me that edge like that. But then again, I don't really like the back part here coming in to each other, so I'm just going to bring this, taper this back part in like so. And now I can actually move this back even further like so. And now I got what I want. So once I'm happy with it, all I do is just go into array mesh again. and click Make Mesh, and there's that. Now, one thing it did is it connected them all up, which is not what I want to do. It's kind of a cool thing. It didn't collect these last two, but that's easily done. But that's because I've got this extrude on. If I turn that off, I can just go ahead and create mesh. There it is. And now that I've got this, and I've got this polygrouped out, I can just go ahead and inset, polygroup all, and inset this in. It's doing it for all of them in one shot. And then QMesh this out, single poly, QMesh this guy out. If I hold Control down, it basically will create this separate piece. But I want to create a QMesh polygroup all, like that. And so now I've got basically, these are going to be the mirrors, like so. But before I do that, I want to push this in first. So I'm basically making a room for that mirror, which is going to be a different material. And then I push that out, holding the Control key down. Oh, man. So it turns out that the polygroup it put inside here is the same as the one over here. No problem. So what I want to do here is I want to polygroup all these around. And to do that all in one shot, I'm just going to say polygroup, a single poly, and then I'm going to turn on symmetry around Y, and I'm going to activate radial symmetry with a count of 8. So now it's going to do them all in one shot. And then here, let's pick a different color that we don't have over here. Here we go. Maybe I don't know if we have this one. So now I can go back to QMesh and polygroup all. Yep. And then just pull this out. So now basically have this first piece. Need to do this. Here's a situation where a mouse works better. So I'm going to hold Control down and just pull out that mirror piece. Come on. Nope, I don't want to mask it. I want to QMesh it. So I'm bringing it out, hold Control, and then so basically that just basically is creating this piece, like so. So I'm just going to bring it out just a little bit, let go, and then I'm going to QMesh this as well. Right. So now I've got the mirror part, and then the other part as well. And that looks pretty good. So now I can just go ahead and say split to similar parts. Okay, and now I've got this as one subtool, and I've got the mirrors as a separate subtool, and I can assign a different material to them, right? So, but before I separate them out, I might want to, I'm going to merge them again for now. Merge down. I should move them into place first. Okay, so I've got this. And I want to move it into place. Remember, when I built this thing, I built it at the center of the world. So now I'm just going to move this up and scale it down and just place it where I want it to be. And let's say this one's going to be for this pilot right here. So I can resize these down and just move them to where I want them to go. Bring them down to here. And then what I did was I just individually, what is happening with the QMesh of these guys? Let's fix that a bit. It just kind of went a little bit. Too much. Okay, there they are. So now what I did is I just basically positioned the first one in its place like so, because they need to sit flush with the object. And then I just basically masked, and I do that with this as well. So let's turn that radial symmetry off. And let's just turn X symmetry on. So what I want to do is I want to mask an island, mask this guy. All right, so these two, and then invert that mask. All right, so now I'm just basically manipulating those two that I masked, so I can just move these up. Should have, I mean, the glasses will be easy enough to move up. So I'll just move these up to where I want them to be, like about there. Solo them out, mask the top part as well, and move this bottom down like like so. All right, so then there's these ones, and then again I can just individually clear the mask, Q1, mask this, invert that mask, move these into place, which should be pretty easy. Oops. Move these mirrors into place, and then just do the same exact thing for the rest that are in the back. Right, so J Jar is asking, do I use drawing tablet for ZBrush? Like, yeah, I do use the Wacom. Man, I didn't even know. Like you were mentioning, Z Pen is another one, and there was another person that mentioned another tablet. So I'm kind of glad that there are more tablets out there. So maybe, you know, some of them are cheaper than the others, or more available to you where you are. I personally really like the Wacom tablets. I've used them forever. They're really dependable. They upgrade their drivers often enough. So yeah, I kind of like the Wacom tablet a lot. The Intuos, I've kind of grown up on them, so but I'm glad there are others too, because choice is always a good thing, and also competition tends to drive prices lower, which is always a good thing as well. All right, so I'm going to lift these ones up to here like so, solo it out, and I'm going to mask all the top parts and bring all this bottom part down to here, solo that out. Okay, so now basically have this kind of going in. And, you know, I think the back one, let's see, is the back one okay? The back one is, no, the back two still need work. No worries, I can do those as well. So just little by little, I can just get this to kind of conform and go around, around the top of the mech. Right, so notice here that these ones are significantly bigger than the other ones, but no worries, I can always shrink them down like this. And I don't know if both pilots need these. I think one of them is enough to look through, so I can decide later on which one of these two I like more and keep that one, because I can always move these other ones back over to here. But I just want to go through array mesh, which is really kind of a neat way of creating these kinds of objects pretty quickly. All right, a mouse on ZBrush sculpt. You know, yeah. Funny enough, I do know some people that sculpt with a mouse, and they do a good job of it. But I think if you are going to be doing a lot of sculpting, I think it's better to use a tablet, because you won't get, you know, I mean, I don't know, maybe you have an ergonomic mouse or whatever, but you know, holding a pen like this is very natural, right? You hold pen, you know, people have been holding pens like this and writing with them for years, right? But this kind of having a mouse and having your hand on the mouse and moving it around is, you know, I mean, some people get carpal tunnel syndrome, and if you're clicking a lot, it would really kind of adversely affect your ergonomic well-being. So I highly recommend, you know, investing in a good tablet. You can use a Wacom tablet for probably like 5-10 years, and it will still be good. I mean, you probably want to get a new one when they come up with newer technology, but I know a lot of really great artists that just use older Wacom tablets and prefer them. I know a really good artist that was really angry with the new tablet and wanted an old one, and I had one laying around, so I gave it to him, and he was really happy, which is fine. But they make really good tablets. Just kind of, I guess that's what I wanted to say this whole time. And they're good people too. All the people I know from Wacom are really nice people. All right. So I think we got about 10 minutes left, so I'll just leave that to last question. Oh, let's do this other thing too. Let's do one last thing here. And for that, I got to hide a bunch of stuff, so bear with me here while I do that. We definitely want to hide that railing that we just made. And this, we want to hide all these things on top. And the people too. Let's hide the people. It's always good to include the people in whatever you're working on, because that way you kind of get a good idea of scale and juxtaposition. A lot of those things kind of will make more sense. Just looking for this one last part. I don't know where we put it. Here it is. All right, so I think this is good enough. And we want to hide the bullet feed thing as well. So let's get rid of that. And I don't know, let's get rid of these other things too. So I think what is, I think one of my lights just ran out of batteries. Oh well. Pardon me for just 1 second. All right, back to normal. And what I want to do here is, for the last part, I just want to create some interesting surface details. And I'm going to use the masking thing to do that with. So here, I just have to decide what are these parts I don't want to see. So that one. Let's hide that. Let's hide this thing, these things as well. Right here. Okay. So I'm doing is just alt-clicking on them and hiding them. That one, we don't need that either. Let's hide that. And we don't need the legs. So again, just hide the folder. We don't need the hips or the legs. Just need this, and we don't need these kind of gun stand-ins either, so let's hide those two. And I don't know if I want, yeah, let's hide these as well so the thing goes underneath it. Okay, and let's hide that. So all I'm left with is just this. Maybe I can even hide these guys. All right, so I'm just left with this top part. And what I want to do is I want to put a pattern on it. So here I just basically will go in and load in an alpha. So here I'm just going to go to Lightbox, go to alphas, like so. And I'm going to choose one of theirs for now. So let's say I want to just put in like some sort of a grid. I'm going to just use this plus here. And in the alpha menu, you can multiply these. So here in the alpha menu, up, well, tab. Nope. All right, there's that. Where did my menus go? Here, I can always do this and get back to normal. Just be patient for a sec. Here we go. Restore custom UI. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I did something that hid the menus for some reason. And I don't know how to bring them back, but let's see. Is this it? Nope. All right. It's fine. I don't need them. I'm almost done anyway. But I'm just going to choose this. And do I have the alpha menus over here? Of course not. All right. How am I going to get the alpha menu back? Let me do this. I'm going to minimize and re-maximize it. Well, another thing I can also do is let's go through different UIs here and see if it comes up. No, none of this is happening. Well, this is unfortunate. It might mean that we need to do this next time. We don't want to autosave right now. Let's go back to here. And so funny. Is it this? Anybody know what, anybody by some miracle know what the keystroke is to hide and show menus? I thought it was tab, but it's not. No, not this either. Menu, oh, it's right there. Okay, and then so in menus, let me bring up my restore custom UI. Okay, we're back on track. All right. So let's ignore everything that happened so far and go back to where we were. Press F. I did this gradient in the back. I can get rid of it. There it is. Okay, so we have this plus here, and we go to alpha menu here, and under modify, you can tile that. So I'm going to do, let's do, let's do the maximum, 32 and 32. So it basically creates this for me here, right? So it basically created that alpha. And what I'm going to do is go to this mesh project, right? And choose that alpha that I had. And then just go ahead and draw, oops. I'm going to go ahead and choose rect for rectangle and then just draw that out. Right, so I'm basically drawing this out like this and letting go. And then that creates this, which is not what I want. Right? Definitely not what I want. What I want is to have a little bit more, let's see, is this, that's good enough. Let's see if I can add more resolution to it. So modifiers, let's max out the resolution, no smoothness, and bevel of 0.5 is good. Let's try it this way and let go. So it's still kind of not what I want. I don't know why. But I'll just do the thing that I did. I'll just use the one. So I think these alphas are a little bit thick. So I'll just go back to alphas here. Go to my alphas menu, and I've got a lot of alphas, as you can see. Go to tech. I think it's this one. And this is one that I just bought off of ArtStation a while back. And let's say I choose this one right here. Okay, alpha off. Oh, that's why, because it wasn't in the alpha. Okay, so here it is. And with this, I want to make alpha. So now it's there. This is off. There it is. And I'm hoping that the let's see, we can find that out easily. All right, that's not what I want. That's an interesting thing that I discovered. I might use that for something else, right? What's this? Oh, okay. So now this is not going to work well because I have them tiled. So let's bring those tiles back down to nothing, right? And we'll just do the default, which is this shape right here, right? So I just basically go like that and let go. And let's see. I've got a good resolution for it. Is this still? So strength is 100, density, intensity, H tiles, V tiles are 1. Okay, everything seems good. And what does the alpha look like? It looks like that. So let me try this again. Yeah, that's not what we want. All right, so I think maybe it's a different, yeah, maybe it was a different alpha. Let's see. I think I chose this one, but where was it? So this has a lot of really cool sci-fi patterns, this kit. And it wasn't expensive. It was like a few dollars on ArtStation. Either ArtStation or Gumroad, I don't remember. I think ArtStation. I'm going to actually choose this one. No, it is this one, right? Yeah, I don't know why it's coming out kind of funky over here. It's coming out as a texture, so let me do none here, and alpha, and image. Yeah, did I not go into the right? No, it should be fine. It should come up. Let's see here. Is there a better one? Better one? Maybe this one right here. Let's choose this one. All right, so there it is, but it's not right. I need to invert it, so alpha inverse. That. Okay, I think we are good now. And so make alpha, no texture, and alpha, and inverse that. Okay, so I think we got what we need now. We just have to tweak it. All right, so here we go. There's that, and then just choose this size right here, like that. And let go. Well, I'm not getting what I want. Oh, my Z intensity is at 100. You need to lower your Z intensity. That's what's going on. So now it'll work. Okay, I'll do that. We're getting closer. Maybe have Z intensity be at around maybe 10. And my resolution is at 1024, so that should be good. Smoothness, maybe increase the smoothness just a tad. Let's see what that looks like. All right, even closer, but not exactly what we want yet. I think maybe so we don't, I think here under alpha, streak length is 0. Okay, noise, 0, radius, blur is 0. Let's add a little bit of a blur to it, maybe a blur of 1. And H tiles and V tiles are good. I don't know what this is, but I'm going to turn it on just for kicks. And let's try that out, getting even closer. So basically, you know, this is what I think I know what I need to do. Just make it much bigger, right, like that. All right, I'm getting close to what I want, not exactly getting what I want yet, but I did get it earlier, so let me see if I bump the smoothness down to 0. Oh, here we go, that did it. And the intensity is way too much, so let's go to about maybe 3. And bevel is 0.5, that's still okay. And then just do this. So you need to do a little bit of tweaking, and then now you get this really nice kind of enveloping of this on top of there. So I'll just make sure it's centered. Draw that out, and then you can move it and kind of adjust it. So I'm just adjusting it to where I want it to go. So let's see if we can get away with this. There it is, right? Okay, so now you can use this as an additive, or you can use it as a subtractive. So let's do that too. I'm going to do it one more time. A little bit bigger. And again, with a little bit of tweaking, I got it to be the smaller size. So there it is. So I like that a lot. So what I can do here is I can say, okay, let's split the unmasked parts here. Okay, so there it is. And now if I don't want this to be protruding out like this, if I want it to be going in, I can do that as well by going in here and saying I want this to be a Boolean, started here, start another Boolean here, and make this a subtractive. And if I turn a live Boolean on, so this is subtractive, I see it, why I'm not on solo and it's not showing up, because probably it's up high, so here we go. Right, so there it is. So now I basically am subtracting the surface with that shape. Right, so you can either subtract it this way, or you can add it and not have it be on top. So you can have just kind of be like this. And here I'm moving the wrong thing. I should be moving this back and forth. So here you can have it be protruding like that. And if you want to subtract it, you just put it on subtractive mode and then just subtract it from the shape, and then you get kind of an indentation. And again, this resolution can be modified, so you can always go to that piece here and you can smooth it. So here I'm just going to go into deformation, and let's give it a little bit of a polish. You can see now that I'm getting less jaggies and kind of more of a concrete shape, right? So I kind of wanted to show that as the last thing. So I think we're a little bit over time here. I'll stick around for some more questions. Let's see. Okay, so GL with retopo this pattern. GL. I rush to Mars. I don't know what you mean by GL. But one thing you can do, that's a good point, is that now this is geometry, right? So that pattern, I'll solo it out. So this pattern here is geometry. So if I turn polyframe on, you can see that it's geometry. It's got a decent decent topology to it. But here, if I polish it a little bit, so go to deformation and polish, right? I get something a little bit smoother like this. And then I can just go in and just zero mesh it. and I'll get a pretty decent topology. For something like this, I'll get really good topology. I think I'm going to hit escape for now. I just want to make sure that I'm zero meshing with adaptive on. It is on, and let's go. I mean, this is enough geometry, so I'm just going to keep the same geometry. And I'm not going to detect edges because I don't really think there's hard edges here. And then if I just do this zero mesh, it takes a little bit of time because there's a lot of stuff going on here. But while that's happening, I will I will look at the questions, see if there's anything new. Again, if you have last minute questions, ask them now because we're going to be ending the stream here in a few minutes. So looks like this is taking a while, and there's the zero mesh version. And you know, the topology is not bad, right? And I can just drop one more polish on this. Just a little bit, not too much. And there it is. So I can get some really good kind of surface shapes out of that. And let's move it up. Oh, I'm on solo. I'm not. So where is it? Do I not have it showing? I do. Okay, here we go. And there it is, right? So it's in subtractive mode right now, but if I turn that off, additive, you know, I basically have created this. And what's nice is, like, you know, maybe this is not really a hard thing. Maybe this is kind of a rubbery thing where you can put things underneath it. So you can just go in here and go into the cloth simulation brushes. So let me pick this cloth move, and you can just go in here and move up a piece like this and put something underneath it or whatever, or you can have the stuff underneath it and do it that way. All right, so with that, we will go ahead and end the stream unless you guys have any more questions. There's quite a few on there, so anything on what we did today. If you didn't understand anything, again, you can ask questions on it on the thread. Even though this when the stream ends, all these comments I think will be in their respective different services. So the YouTube questions will be on the YouTube chat, and the Twitch will be on Twitch. And I don't know if ZBrush Live consolidates them or whatever, but you can go in and add a comment. So you can add a question in the comment, and it will get answered for you. But hopefully this has been fun. We're getting close here. We're going to do the surface details, and then we're going to start adding some colors and paint to it. And maybe render it, create some compositions and render it in Keyshot, and do a composition at the end of the stream. So with that, I bid you all a good day, night, wherever you are, and what time you're watching this. Thanks for attending. Thanks for watching it live. I know it might take an effort. I know you guys are from all over the world, so you might be watching this at some crazy hour. I appreciate that you stayed up for it. Again, if you want to tune in, I will be on again in a couple of weeks. So Friday on, Friday off. So next Friday I'm not going to be on, but the Friday after I will. So tune in and ask questions if you have them. Hopefully you're working on fun projects yourself.